Welcome back to Totally Useful Redstone Designs. Today I'm going to show you a super smelter that fuels itself. The first variant I'm going to show you here is 32 furnaces. Now, the primary goal of this machine here is to fuel my kelp farm. Right now, if you look at what I have on screen here, you'll see the prices of blaze rods are like 320 something per rod, which is actually much better than it was when we initially had the update of like 500 per rod. But you can see that even charcoal is cheaper if you can order it. Now, this machine takes logs, which are even cheaper than charcoal, and turns them into charcoal at the cost of a little bit of extra time. And on Donut SMP, where profit is everything, you need to take into account your input costs. A lot of other farms on YouTube and TikTok, they just tell you how much the farm makes per hour, and they totally discount any actual input costs, like blaze rods or bone blocks. If you're selling kelp for 750 per block, but you're paying 300 for a blaze rod and another 300 for a bone block, you're only actually making like 100 profit per kelp, which is not great, honestly. Using a design like this, you can immediately discount your blaze rod costs by 50%. So now you're making 300 per kelp block, which is going to be much better for your profit in the long run. That being said, there are some fixed costs in this build. Once you start it up for the first time, you won't have to pay them again, but you're going to need 64 charcoal to fill the furnace here and 64 per hopper with the filler items here. Make sure you put those filler items in. And you also will need 5 stacks of 64 here. It's going to fill itself up eventually, but just know that these costs going to be about a little less than 5,000 charcoal that are going to be sitting in the machine, not really doing anything. And if you look at my sign right here, it takes about 34 minutes to get the maximum output. So that's a one-time cost though. Going over our signs here, there are 32 furnaces, which produce 11,520 per hour. The net, though, after the charcoal refuels itself, is about 10,000 per hour. And I calculated it out that this farm right here can support 112 smokers. The capacity is about 421,000 logs, and that's about 36 and a half hours runtime. That is all of these chests right here, to include the chest, the hopper minecart right here. All right, we're going to give you a little example of how it works here. You're going to, let's freeze it, load in some logs, and then once this hopper is roughly full, it's going to take off, and it's going to deliver its payload to all the furnaces, come back and get reloaded. The charcoal side is basically the same thing. When they're done being smelted, it's going to hit this hopper here and be dropped into this hopper minecart, which will then refuel all your furnaces. If you preload this with about 3 charcoal each, then it's going to fill itself up without any issue. You won't have to touch it again. All you need to do is put more logs in. And you can see sometimes, I guess for some reason, the other hoppers take the charcoal. So you'll get like 1 or 2 output. And you don't necessarily need a dropper here. I just have it because in my actual base, it's filling a water stream. You can use a hopper here easily. Again, it's going to take about 30 minutes to reach its maximum capacity and actually start fueling whatever farm you have sending it to. I also made this 64 furnace one, and this one produces 23,000 charcoal per hour. You net around 20,000 charcoal per hour, and it can supply 224 smokers. The capacity on this farm is 663,000 logs, and it can run for about 29 hours before you need to refuel it. The maximum output is also at about 30 minutes. That's when you're going to start getting that 20,000 charcoal per hour. So one of the big differences here between the 32 version and the 64 version is in the 64 version, we need to use chest mine carts. And in order to save as much charcoal as possible, once we max out the furnace and the hopper feeding it, we come into the chest mine cart and we put filler items. These filler items allow us to actually save charcoal space so we're not wasting 2 rows of charcoal. And that way we can get to our maximum rate faster. Just make sure you use something different than you actually use in the hopper spacers. That way it doesn't put your minecart chest spacer into the hopper. And you can see here, the sign says it takes about 30 minutes to reach that maximum output. So after about 30 minutes, come check on your minecarts and add in those spacer items. Final thoughts here. And this is pretty expandable. I mean, honestly, I think this storage is actually a little insane. We're talking 29 hours of output. So you could probably easily expand this design out for more furnaces, depending on how many smokers you're feeding, or if you're just selling the charcoal outright, which is totally an option. It all depends on how you want to customize it. Should be relatively easy. The only thing you're going to need to do is mess with this signal strength here to determine how full you want these minecarts. Right now, they're pretty much optimized for the current length. Now, I hate giving daily profit just because prices can fluctuate so much, but at today's price, right now, 185 per charcoal and about 20,000 net per hour, you're talking almost 4 million an hour, which per day is a lot of charcoal and actually decent profit. This is the current version, one of the earlier versions I've made that I'm running in my current base. Sorry, I'm on vacation right now. My internet is kind of bad, so I might rubber band a bit. But I have this 32 furnace supporting my 40 module bone meal farm, which keeps about 112 smokers active at all times. So if you think about it, my only input into the kelp block is 120 per log, which means I'm making over 600 profit per kelp block. Now, if you're buying blaze rods for 300 something and you're buying bone blocks for 300 something, you're walking away with maybe 150 profit per kelp block. This is 6 times that. So it's definitely something to supplement your kelp farm until the border expansion happens and they take away the kelp bonus. And as a bonus, you can see that I'm being delivered granite. My favorite trader from my last villager farm is going to be the mason. Clay balls, stone, granite, andesite, and diorite are dirt cheap on orders. And with the raid bonus plus curing bonus, you're trading for like 2 stone for 1 emerald, which is just super cheap. So if you haven't figured out which one's the best villager off of that, definitely try a stonemason. In summary, if you have any smelting needs, this fuel farm is going to get you there and get your profit much higher simply because it lowers your input costs so much. And even if you don't have a kelp farm, starting a charcoal farm up and starting to sell it to people is going to get you some pretty decent profit, even as a beginner, because as far as it stands, really the only expensive thing in this entire build are the powered rails. And all you need to do is mine for a few minutes and get some gold to make your own. Super easy to make, decent profit, and basically super AFKable. I do have a tree farm that I'm working on to supply this, so you don't even need to pay for the logs. So if you want to see that, leave a comment down below. Or if you have any other ideas or any other contraptions that you might want made, just let me know and we can get on it. Something that'd be totally useful. Thanks for joining me today and have a good one.